important to go into a classroom not really expecting certain things to happen. I didn't know what I wanted, I didn't know what I was ready for, and that's okay. You'll make it. But to me, that was one of the best parts of student teaching. You are not just another warm body in the room, you are their teacher. There's just a lot of pressure that you feel. It's called the interview. Channel. If you're new here, my name is Maylene. I teach first grade. I'm a first grade teacher in Middle Tennessee. I absolutely love my job and I want to share as much as I can with you guys. So thanks for coming along. Today I'm going to be talking about student teacher tips and you guys message me all the time on YouTube, on Instagram about making a video for student teachers. I heard you, I'm listening, I'm here, we're doing it now. So I sat down, I made a list of 10 tips that I think are gonna help you guys out the most. I'm sure there's 100 other tips I could talk to you about, and I do plan on doing a couple more videos for you student teachers. But yeah, these are 10 tips I think that will make your student teaching experience the best it possibly can be. Let me just open my notebook. So these aren't in any particular order. I kind of just sat down and thought about my experience and the things that I went through and tried to come up with 10 tips that would help you guys. So tip number 1 is to see it as a learning opportunity. When I started student teaching, I just remember feeling so excited and so proud of myself for getting to the point, and all I wanted to do was learn. And if you don't feel the same way, you should, because it is your last opportunity being in a classroom before you get your own classroom. And it sounds like nothing when you say it, but it is a huge deal. I remember when I was student teaching, we'd be in the classroom all day long, and then, you know, once a week we would come back with our college cohort and we would talk about the things we were doing in the classroom or seeing in the classroom or struggles we were having and things like that. And I just remember thinking, I don't feel like some of these people are taking it that seriously. So take it seriously, see it as the learning opportunity that it is, because it's your last chance. Like, make the most of it. That being said, my tip number 2 is to go in with an open mind. I know personally I had a lot of ideas about what teaching was. You know, we spend our whole lives in school anyway. We know what it means to be a teacher, and you spend all this time in your college courses preparing you to be a teacher, but you really don't know what's gonna happen, and there's really no way to know what to expect. So go in with an open mind. I have a lot of student teachers who message me on Instagram and tell me they're not seeing the best practices in their placements, and that breaks my heart. But I do have to say that no matter where you are, your experience is going to be different from someone else. I remember the school I was at, it was a small school, there were only 2 of us student teachers there, and my experience was very, very positive. Her experience, the girl who's also student teaching with me, was the opposite of positive. She was miserable the whole time, and I can't tell you enough that even if you get stuck in a placement that you're not happy with, keep an open mind. Just try, because no matter what, there's something you're going to be able to learn. And if you don't see it that way, then you're gonna have a really hard time the rest of your career, because teaching is all about learning. So yeah, I think that it's important to go into a classroom not really expecting certain things to happen. Speaking now as a teacher, I know that every single day is different, and if you were to walk into my classroom one day for 30 minutes and then come back 30 minutes later, you would have a completely different experience. But I think when you're student teaching, it's important to keep an open mind, because even if you're there for months at a time, you're still seeing just a piece of the classroom. And I personally went in wanting to get as much as I could out of the whole experience. Even if there were some things I was like, is that gonna work? Or how does this even happen in a classroom? I still kept an open mind, and you'd be surprised some of the things you learn. And I know personally, before I went into student teaching, I had a lot of ideas about what teaching would be like, or the kind of teacher I would be, and chances are, I don't want to say they're slim, but there's no way every single student teacher is going to get matched with their ideal version of themselves as a teacher. Like, you might find someone that you fit perfectly with and you guys have the same teaching philosophy and you want to do things the same way, or you like the same things or the same teaching style. But probably you are going to be with someone whose teaching style is a little bit different from you, and that's okay. Part of having an open mind is being open to other people's ideas and other people's experiences, and I think it's a really, really powerful thing to learn from others, and that's something that I was really looking forward to. So keep an open mind when you're student teaching. Even if you get there and you think, oh, it's gonna be a long 6 months, or oh, it's gonna be a long year, just keep an open mind, because you never know what you're gonna learn. And that kind of goes with tip number 3, which is relationships. I knew going in that I wanted to have really strong relationships with the kids that I student taught with, and a really good relationship with my mentor teacher. Something I didn't do, but that luckily my mentor teacher did for me, was she sat down with me and she said, okay, what do you want to do? And a question as simple as that is actually really helpful, because I know that my student teaching program, there were certain checkpoints where we were supposed to have done certain things, like teach this many lessons, plan this many lessons. And my mentor teacher sat down with me and she was like, do you want to do full takeover? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Like, where do you see yourself? And that was a really good conversation for us to have, because I didn't know. My head was spinning. I was just happy to be there. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I was ready for, and that's okay. You'll make it. That in itself is a really powerful conversation to have with your mentor teacher, even if your mentor teacher doesn't make the effort just by themselves to ask you those questions. It's something that you should really sit down and talk about. Your relationship with your mentor teacher is so important. So just make sure from the beginning you kind of set the tone for what you want to do throughout the year, because it's an awkward conversation to have midway through the year if you haven't been teaching and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I want to do all these things, or I need to do all these things. I know I've just been kind of sitting back and not doing anything, but can I teach now? Like, you just really need to get it out at the beginning. Where do you actually see yourself going? And a lot of college programs have this kind of mapped out for you in a way, but there's always some flexibility and you can always do more. So make sure whatever you want to accomplish in your student teaching, you communicate with your mentor teacher so that they can help you get there. Your relationships with your students are also going to play a really huge role in your student teaching. I know that when I first got into the classroom, I student taught in 1st grade, just to give you some perspective. One of the things I did was make student interest inventories, and I just had like an index card, and I kind of wrote down all these things about them, things they liked, foods they liked, what subjects did they like. That was really important for me. A lot of them really did not like social studies, and they really did not like math. So I knew that those 2 things, I really wanted to work hard to make those as fun as I possibly could. My best friend from college, who was actually student teaching at the time, gave me the idea to just put it on like a little index card and have it on a ring, and I could just flip through whenever. And it gives you an idea into them, because even asking what someone's favorite food is tells you about that person. For me, it's ice cream. I don't know what that says about me, but that's just what I like. And actually, I have my template that I use, because when I first asked them the questions, I just wrote it on index cards, and then what I ended up doing was typing it into a document and then printing it, laminating it, and putting it on a ring, because nothing can be simple with me. So I have that template that I am more than happy to share with you, student teachers, or even teachers, if you just want a little student interest inventory that you can keep on a ring and refer to all year long. I know I for sure did it, especially when it came to like giving them things. I would know their favorite colors. So yeah, and I will say it doesn't have to be easy, and no matter where you student teach, you're probably gonna have maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 students who are not going to just love you right away. And that's okay, because that's life. No one is always gonna love you all of the time. But to me, that was one of the best parts of student teaching, was connecting with those kids who were trying so hard and had so many walls up to just push me away. Because every time I saw a little glimpse of love or appreciation or something, if they laughed at my joke, I was like, I see you. Not that tough. Plus, it's like the kids that you personally have to work harder for, you end up liking just a little bit more. And I don't know if that's true for everyone, but it was true for me, and It's those kids that really stick out in your mind and you're like, I'm gonna remember you. Also, on the subject of relationships, my mentor teacher actually did a really great job of making sure the kids knew that I was a person to be respected. And I get comments all the time about people who are in situations where, you know, they have students who are just not respecting them or they don't care. And my mentor teacher did a really great job, because even when I was like first teaching, she would step in if they were getting out of hand or if they were just talking over me or something, because it happens, like it's gonna happen. And she made a point to tell them that I was their teacher too, and they need to listen to every adult. So hopefully when your mentor teacher introduces you, or if they already have introduced you, they made that very clear to the kids that you are not just another warm body in the room. You are their teacher, and they still need to respect you and they still need to listen to you. Tip number 4 is overcome your fears. And this was something that was very challenging for me, because I am a terrible public speaker. I have always been a terrible public speaker. I am the worst at it. When I was in, like, I don't know, 8th grade, if I had to give a presentation, I would either die of laughter or I would cry. Like, I was never a good public speaker, and I'm glad those days are mostly over. And I actually have a really funny story to tell you about my first interview, so stay tuned for that video. But overcoming your fears is something that you really should try to do during your student teaching. And I will tell you that, you know, just looking back to my student teaching and how I was with those kids, I am pretty different now with my own kids, and there's just a different state of mind. There's another mentality when you're in your own room with your own kids when you're finally a teacher than when you're student teaching. And guys, I know when you're student teaching, you feel like there is so much pressure, because not only do you have to make these crazy elaborate lesson plans and like have your mentor teacher in there all day watching everything you do, which first of all is a really, really good thing because they can also step in and help you and guide you, and it's really beautiful. But there's just a lot of pressure that you feel, and then you have your professors more than likely coming in and observing you. You might have the principal of that school come in and observe you. There's a lot that you need to deal with. For me, some of the fears I had were public speaking. I was afraid that none of my lessons were going to be engaging. I was afraid that I would forget everything. I was afraid that the kids wouldn't like me. I was afraid of just so many things. And when you think about that opportunity, like I said, as one for you to learn, it'll be a lot easier for you to be able to overcome those fears. And I feel like by the end of my student teaching, I felt so much better than I did at the beginning, just because I had that open mindset and I was there to conquer my fears and I was there to be a better teacher. Because, you know, when you're in college, up to your student teaching, you probably go in to random schools, do observations, teach little lessons, but it's really different than when you're student teaching and you're in that room all day long. So I improved tenfold, and then when I became a teacher in my own classroom, I feel like I'm improving every single day. So I just want you to know that if you're about to be student teaching, or if you're student teaching now and you have a lot of fears or a lot of anxiety, or you're just nervous about everything, it does get better. Speaking of overcoming your fears, tip number 5 is to say yes. Say yes to every opportunity that you get. Like I said, this is your last chance to really practice teaching. No matter what it is, just say yes. When I was student teaching, if my mentor teacher asked me to do something, even if I was incredibly nervous about it, I said, sure, like, let's try it. And I kind of flopped a lot, and that's okay because you're going to flop. And I think one of the things I thought going in was that I was gonna try my best not to make mistakes. It's not a really healthy mindset to have, because I've learned that teaching is quite the opposite of perfectionism. And if you go into student teaching trying to be perfect, you're not going to be happy. And so I remember flopping a couple times, but still wanting to try more. Like every time I failed, I wanted to go ahead and try it again because I knew I could do better. Say yes to any opportunity that your mentor teacher gives you, and also say yes to the opportunities they're not asking you to do. So what I mean by that is if they don't say, hey, do you want to come to this meeting? Just go with them. It's okay to be annoying when you're a student teacher. I promise, it'll be fine. If they don't say, hey, do you want to come to this IEP meeting? Just go with them. Okay, maybe not that. Maybe you should ask if you could go in an IEP meeting. It's probably better to ask about that. My mentor teacher offered. But basically what I'm trying to say is say yes to every opportunity that's given to you and not given to you. I remember I just wanted to be so involved, not only in the classroom I was in, but in the school in general. If there was something I could do or go to or participate in, I was there. And it led to a lot of really, really great opportunities. So just say yes. Tip number 6, and I've kind of touched on this just a little bit, but be there every day. Every single day. I know college students kind of have a reputation for not showing up to things, and that's definitely not the impression you want to give on someone who's going to be evaluating your performance for the next 6 months or year or however long your student teaching placement is. And you shouldn't just be there every day to be there every day and make a good impression. You should be there every day because you want to be there every day. If you have a hard time showing up for student teaching, how are you ever going to show up to your own class? Like, it makes no sense. And I remember feeling devastated when it was like at the beginning of the year, and I think like maybe a month or so in, I had to miss a day of school here and a day of school there, and I was so upset, and I was like, what am I going to be missing? But yeah, I've always heard teachers say that every day is a different day, and it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around that fact because you think, well, your schedule is the same every day. That's how I used to feel. But actually being in a student teaching environment and being a teacher now, it is so true. I feel like it's so important to be there every day because you have such a limited amount of time. So be there every day. And on that topic, a lot of people ask me if, they can have a job when they student teach. And I will say, I really didn't have a job. I had like a little job I did like once or twice a month, but I really didn't because I know myself. And even though all throughout college I worked like 2 jobs at a time and was always working, I knew that I wanted to completely invest myself in student teaching. And if that's something that you're not able to do financially, like if you need to be working, like a lot of my friends in college had to keep up their job every single day. That's totally okay, but it's, again, definitely a conversation you need to have with your mentor teacher. I just knew personally that I wanted to give it my all. So I stopped my serving job and I was just student teaching every single day. And there's a lot of days where, you might stay late with your mentor teacher, but I feel like that time is so incredibly valuable because they do a lot of their planning after school. Like, teachers do not just plan in their little 30-minute planning block that they have during the day. Like, a lot of it is done before school or after school, and me not having the job gave me the freedom to see that and be there and plan more than I would have been able to if I had my job. So I'm definitely not saying you can't have a job if you student teach, but I am saying if there's any way for you to possibly not have a job or only work weekends somewhere, you will probably benefit so much more from your student teaching. And I think some of the people I went to school with kind of assumed that they would be there from whatever, like 7:30 to 3 every day and leave, but that is definitely not how it goes. I know for my school, it was written down somewhere where like we were supposed to be there when our mentor teacher got there. So if our mentor teacher got there 20 minutes early, we were there 20 minutes early. If they left 2 hours later, we left 2 hours later. And I just remember thinking, that's kind of a lot. But then when I actually started student teaching, I wanted to be there. I wanted to see everything she was doing. I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could. So it's a really good mindset for you to have. And there were even times where my mentor teacher was like, you can go, like it's fine, you can leave. And I was just like, I'm gonna stay. So I don't know, it's probably kind of annoying, but it's whatever. Tip number 7 is don't sit back. Don't sit back. Don't just go to student teaching to sit back in a chair and observe someone else teach. Do not do that. And I know when you first get there, it's gonna be hard, but the sooner you start getting your body in front of those little bodies or those big bodies, if you teach like high school or something, the sooner you are in front of them, the easier it's gonna be and the more you're gonna learn. Don't sit back. Even if it's just something like, I don't know, if the kids are in centers, walk around. Do things with them, even if it's like your second day there. Talk to them. What are they learning about? Why are they learning that? Get to know them a little bit at a time, even if you're not, you know, full on teaching your first week there, or your second week there, or your third week there. But don't sit back and see it as your opportunity to just take notes on what this teacher is doing, because you're not gonna learn a single thing. I can tell you that, because I was watching YouTube videos for years before I went to student teaching, and the second I was in that classroom, I was like, oh, okay, what am I supposed to do? Like, it's just different. Yes, watching YouTube videos and taking notes on other people teaching, it's gonna help you because it's going to give you a different mindset about things, and you're gonna learn more things that are gonna be happening in the background. But until you actually step up and start teaching or talking to students, giving them content, you're not gonna be doing yourself a favor. Be as active as you can in the classroom. It is gonna do nothing but pay off. So now that you're in the classroom and you're learning things and your mentor teacher is great and you're teaching your kids, tip number 8 is to take advantage of other teachers. I knew that when I was student teaching, like I said, I was in a first grade placement, and I also spent a little bit of time in a second grade room down the hallway. But one thing that I really loved was getting to know the other teachers, because there are so many different types of teachers out there, and you really, I feel like you have an idea of what kind of teacher you want to be when you go into student teaching, but there's so many more things out there for you to see and learn about. And one thing I loved doing was just being in other people's rooms. So there were points where my mentor teacher would let me go into, you know, a kindergarten classroom or something like that and just watch good teachers. And a lot of the things that I saw, I'm doing now in my classroom. And if I hadn't gone to those teachers, I wouldn't be doing them. So like I said, this is your last chance. Take every advantage you possibly can, every opportunity, take them all. If I could go back, I would have probably tried to get in other classrooms more. There's always more you can learn. So see what other teachers are doing in their rooms, see some of their favorite activities, some of their favorite books. What are they doing with their classroom layout? I remember going into random teachers' rooms with my phone and just like taking pictures if I liked it. That way I could recreate it when I was a teacher, and some of those ideas I've definitely stolen. So yeah, take advantage of everybody in your building. And on that note, tip number 9 is ask for interview tips or advice. It is one thing, you know, you can go on YouTube and you can Google search and get interview tips, which I plan on doing a video possibly on my interview experience. I really want to, but I'm kind of nervous about it. Anyway, I student taught in the spring. So I started in January and I was gonna be done like May, April. And I knew that after I student taught, I wanted to have a job like that following August. And I told you before, I am such a bad public speaker. And so I felt like I couldn't prepare enough for my first teaching interview, which actually was at the school that I student taught at. But while I was student teaching, I asked everybody I could find, what questions were you asked in your interview, or what advice do you have? Tell me everything they said to you, because student teaching is to prepare you for teaching, right? But there's this little process in between student teaching and teaching that's called the interview, and it is a huge deal. So while you're student teaching, I seriously recommend talking to teachers about what their interview experience was like, not just at the school they're at now, but other schools. Like, what kinds of things have they seen? I promise you, whenever you start interviewing, you're gonna wanna be as ahead as possible. So while you're student teaching and while you're doing all these amazing things and building all these relationships that you're then going to talk about in your interview, just start thinking about some of the questions you might be asked. That way, if there's something you are like completely unprepared for, maybe while you're still student teaching, you can kind of remedy that and come up with a better answer. Does that make any sense? I hope it does. My last tip for you student teachers is to keep a digital notebook, y'all. Do not keep a notebook like this, or a full-size notebook and a pencil and a paper, and sit there and write all these beautiful things and like date it and make it a little diary. Do not do that. No, you are never gonna go back and look at that. Even if you're someone who's like, Maylene, I really just like taking handwritten notes. No, first of all, when you're student teaching, you don't have time for it. If you do have time for it, you're not gonna be able to read it later, and you're just not gonna read it later. So what I did, I kept digital notes on my laptop, and let me tell you, I still reference these to this day when I'm teaching. If I remember something I did in student teaching, or remember a book I read in student teaching, all I have to do is open my laptop, log in. All I have to do is type in running list, because that's what I called it, because I kind of made it spur of the moment. You can call it like student teaching 2018 or whatever you want. I just have mine titled running list, and I'll show you what it looks like. I always have my laptop with me. I'm not always going to carry around a little notebook that I wrote in when I was student teaching. You know what I mean? It's the digital age, guys. Come on. So mine is titled running list, and I kind of made my own little categories. So procedures, environment, stuff for my classroom, organization, instruction, ideas, ESL. Oh, I forgot that was in there. Tips, teacher binders, student notebooks, supplies, and to purchase. So basically what I did was I started writing down ideas. And I started with procedures because those are the things that every teacher kind of needs to know. And although I started student teaching in January and she had already done her beginning of the year procedures, I asked her what she did, and I wrote down the things that she said. So I have what I wrote down for arrival, for just all these different things. I would write things about the environment. What did I want my environment to be like in my own classroom? One of the things that I wrote down was nothing small, everything large, clear, and easy to read from a distance. And I don't know, that's just like one of my big pet peeves in a classroom, is if there's a bunch of like posters up or things like that and you have to be like this close to read it. I'm like, what is the point? Like, your students are not gonna go to that poster and be like, oh, right, a possessive noun. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted everything I put up in my room to be able to be read from across the room. So even now, every time I do like an anchor chart or something, I write really big so that when it's hanging up on that wall, the students can read it from wherever they are in the room. So yeah, I just wrote down a ton of little tips for organization and instruction and things like that, and kind of ideas that I wanted for my own classroom, because I just remember being in student teaching and maybe watching my mentor teacher do something, or just being at lunch and I would have an idea and I would just add it to this document. So one of the reasons that I really recommend having a digital document for your student teaching notebook, thoughts recorder, idea saver is, number one, you can always have it. You don't have to worry about keeping a notebook. And I'm also the kind of person who starts writing in notebooks and then fills up like 20 pages, and then I have just like 130 pages that I just will never ever use, and then I have this big notebook. No, when it's digital, it's not like that. And also, you can search the document for a specific thing you're looking for. So no matter what, if you wrote something in your notebook and you want to go back and reference it, all you have to do is type in a keyword and it'll take you there. So I really recommend that you take whatever notes you want to take on a laptop, on a computer, keep them digital. Even if you write them down and transfer them to something digital later, your life is going to be so much easier. And I'm serious, guys, I reference this not all the time, but I've referenced it a couple times since I've been teaching. So yeah, Alright guys, so those are my 10 tips for student teachers. I have probably hundreds more, but I just kind of condensed it into 10 main tips that I thought would help you guys out the most. So if you are currently student teaching, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you're having an amazing time. I hope you're learning everything, and I hope you're having fun. Every day that you're there, you're gonna have a chance to try something new. So don't be afraid. Even if it's something crazy and you think it may never work, try it. If you are about to be student teaching soon, maybe in a year, in 2 years, you're gonna have an amazing time. I promise you are going to be a teacher before you know it, and it is the best feeling in the world. So I commend you not only for watching these videos to try to get ideas and make yourself better, but for going and becoming a teacher, because it is definitely so rewarding, so amazing. I love it, and I can't tell you how much my mindset changed from student teaching to teaching. So expect that, you know, your teaching mentality, your teaching philosophy is going to change. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that if you are in the classroom, even just popping in and doing lessons or observing, I hope that you're having fun, because teaching is a lot of learning, it's a lot of hard work, but most of all, it should be something fun. And I genuinely enjoy going to my job every single day, but just know that it's all worth it in the end. And even if you're having a hard time in student teaching right now, those experiences are only going to make you so much stronger. They're going to make you a better teacher. As always, if you need anything from me or if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below on here. And if you're a student teacher, I would actually really appreciate it if you shared some of the things you're seeing in your classroom down in the comment section below, because I know a lot of people who are about to be student teaching or are student teaching would love to hear your experience too. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.